All right, welcome back to the next episodes, if you will. We're on the extruder, which is section 5 of the Prusa manual, and this is again for the i3 Mark III build. And if that's what you're here for, you're in the right place. I'm Ron, and this is my place. All right, here we go. Same routine as the other ones, kind of just focusing on the build and a little less on the eye contact. So we're starting off with the extruder at this point, and I've got some parts out, and we're going to see where we're at. We're going to continue on. Now, one of the things is there's two BondTech gears, and specifically we're going for the one without the tightening screw, or the set screw, or whatever you wish to call it. And let's see what we're going to do here. So now we need some empty nuts. Breaking out the glasses. The black parts just don't seem to be as well. I don't know if it's just what printer they happen to use or what, or it's the actual. If it's the actual filament. It's like it's not as clean, it's a little messier. It's like their printer that's printing the black needs the Z-axis calibrated, or it's over extruding slightly. Because it's just not going all that awesome. See if I can smooth it up a little bit. For printed parts, I mean, it hasn't been bad. This is probably the worst one I've run into so far. And I'm about halfway through, I guess. Yeah, probably almost a little bit more than halfway when it comes to parts. It is just not wanting to go in at all. All right, I'm gonna not bore you with my frustrations, so I'm gonna be right back. I'm just gonna fiddle with it. Okay, tends to work way better when you use the right parts. So make sure on step 3 that you're using square like that, not a standard nut like that. It really sucks trying to get this to there. It did work. Anyway, whatever. Don't use a regular nut, use the square nuts. And they work so much better. Almost like they're designed for it. Yay. Okay, now we're putting both bearings in, and they're just sitting in there. They're not pressed in by any way, shape, or forms. So we are now pressing in. We want to make sure that we're putting in the teeth on this side. You see this part here? You want it to be like that. Just like the directions said. So we are trying to get this through now. Now we're trying to tap it through. You want to be careful. You don't want to put a lot of force onto it. I need a third hand. If anybody can give me one really quick, that would have been nice. Maybe we'll go through this way. So one tip of this is just slightly beveled. I'm trying to press this through now. And I don't want to break it. Really don't want to break it. So I am going to got to be really careful with these because of the way it's kind of the direction that we're it's the direction that it's printed in, so you got to be really careful about the breaking of it. We don't want it to break. I'm kind of worried about it at the moment. Certainly. Want to be cautious. They should seriously consider pieces like this almost should become assembled. Good news is it's slowly going. Try to be cautious too. For obvious reasons. Okay. So as this is going now, but as you can see, one side of this is flush, so you're going to want to make sure you're putting it in from this side, and one of the edges of this one end has a slight chamfer to it, so you're going to want to make sure that's going in first. Yep, and then just kind of slowly push it through. Just trying to push it a little bit further. Just a little bit. Making sure it's got good bite in this one. All right, I think that's good. Okay. Looks like a number of people are having issues. There's little comments and stuff on the online manual, so that's kind of cool. So, all right, so we have this. Now the next thing we're dealing with is what now? We're getting an extruder body. Like this bad boy. Yep. And then we, ooh, the fancy filament sensor. Where is it? There it is. This is all the fancy electronics. Fancy. That's what makes it bloody smart. So we got the filament sensor, and now they want, and they're saying be very careful of this so it doesn't pop. It must be static sensitive, hopefully not that static sensitive. An M3 10 screw. And 2 nuts. Real nuts this time. So this is a bit odd. It's like this is a set screw. It may be for, so 2. Maybe it's an extra. I don't know. All right. Stay on task. So now they're saying be very conscientious of making sure we get these nuts placed correctly, because apparently you can't get to them later. So we will be very certain that they are good. And again, this part is another one that was printed obviously on the fancy build plate, because this is powder coated. It's got that texture on it on the print, which I suppose is fine. It's just you got to get used to it. I think it's going to be heavily dependent on what kind of parts you make. And then if you are counting on the smoothness or not. So I'm just being ultra careful on this. I'm trying to make sure that the thing's down all the way, because they say you can't get to this anymore. So just trying to be careful. All right. So now looks like it's in place. Yep. So they're basically saying you press this in. You want to be very careful of the pins and make sure that the angle is correct. And then you can look into this and you can actually see the sensor as well, which we can. And then there's an opening for the screw. So this is that famous one that they're like, yep, whatever you do, make sure you put this thing get it well you want to make sure you get it nice and tight, but don't over tighten it. key behind this is you have to make sure it doesn't move. But it's screwing into plastic. ABS probably, but same difference. All right, seems pretty good. They're really worried about everybody not liking the layer lines. Welcome to 3D printing. Okay, now we need an M3 by 30 screw. I assume is this bad boy. And a couple nylon looking nut or washers. Where is it? There it is. Anyway. So this is a benefit of the way they do their packages is, you know, I was trying to make sure if this was a 30 or a 40, and it's obviously, now this is the 30, I would have got it wrong. When in doubt, compare. All right, so now we're going to be putting this up here. So putting this like this. So you basically have this with the pins on the right, and then you put a washer on it, and then apparently it goes through here, and then we'll have another washer on it. And then we get to scroll. Oh. My mouse took off on me. There we go. So we'll set this off to the side. And now we're getting the extruder motor. The final one. Should only be one left. Nice. And it should say extruder. And it does. Love it when a plan comes together. And the other BondTech. Okay. And we want to make sure again we've pay attention to where our flat is at. And we're going to slide with the gear on the top. And it's saying to leave it actually at the very top of the shaft. Snug it up. I'm sure we'll be tightening that later. And now we are mounting the extruder motor. Two button 30s. No. That's 35s. Those are 40s. These look like them. That one and that one. So mount the motor on the extruder body as shown in the picture. Double check the orientation of the cables. Tighten both screws firmly. Okay, so if this one goes like this, this is a lot of fiddling on this one. Gotta make sure you put them in the right screw holes though. I was putting it in the wrong one. Too many things in my hands. All right, starting to get irritated. So, got to make sure the wire hangs right. I am going to get this one started so I can quit worrying about the damn thing. Now, I can try and get these guys started. So you're using three. The one that you just assembled with the washers on the either side of the other part of the BondTech gear, and then you have two on this side. You don't want to put in the one with the near the pins. That was what I was originally trying to do. Okay, so now we got one more to put in here. It'll be interesting about this texture. I'm not sure what I think of it. I think it's going to be very dependent on what people are doing with their prints, because it's pretty intense. It's got a neat look to it. It definitely hides all the layer lines because of the texture. But it's, again, textured. It's rough. It's like you printed on sandpaper. So I don't know. I can think of both ways. Really, that's going to be the key with that, is to have multiple build plates. So you can have the nice smooth PEI concept, or even, I think they have the smooth powder coated as well. And then this rougher one. I think it'd be nice to have that as an option. Aren't they? They're probably glad that I approve. It would make them sad if I didn't approve. I'm sure. All right. So now, both screws firmly. This is holding the extruder in. All right. Now this one I'm going to tighten, but we got to be cautious. Because this has to move freely still. All right. Sorry, this isn't crazy exciting, but I just want to make sure I get it done correctly. Open the idler pulley fully and have direct access to the pulley. I do. Oh, so that's going to have to be adjusted. And now we need a piece of filament. Do I have a piece? I know I have a piece of filament. I always have filament laying around. Dig in the trash. Filament everywhere. All right, that looks like a good enough piece. So, So now, when you look inside this, you'll actually see the pulley, and you can see the channel here, right? That's what's going to grip the filament, and it needs to line up with this channel where the filament's going to come through. So you got to loosen the thing up and line them up. That's what we're going to do. So I'm going to loosen it. And pop in a piece of filament. Snug it, and then I'm looking. Yep, and it's lined up nicely. And that's why they actually said to not push it all the way down. So I got it nice and snug, and as you can see on the end of this, that's how far down it is. Boom. And you can see in here that it is indeed lined up. Focus issue, sorry. So that should be good. I'm all cramped here with this table. Usually this table's not here. I did this just for the build. Now, securing the extruder idler. M40s and 2 springs. Assemble the springs on both screws. That's pretty easy. So now we have springs on screws, and place both screws into the extruder body and tighten them. The screw's head should almost be aligned with the printed surface. So we're now doing this. Yep, they seem to be aligned quite nicely. So now we got two more square nuts, or also known as M3MS. And we have to put them all the way in. Okay. Yes, the alignment's good. Okay, fine. I will check and verify that the alignment's good. Yes, the alignment's good. Preparing the extruder cover. There's a lot to this extruder. Not something I hope we have to take apart a lot. So we need the extruder cover, we need some or one square nut, we need one regular nut, and we need two M25s. And we gotta insert the nuts. One of the square one goes down here. Ooh, that doesn't look good. Okay, and then the other one goes in over here. this is another one that doesn't seem to be quite as clean as it probably should be. So I'm trying to line the amount of plastic behind it is pretty minimal too. That helped. So this one didn't go in very well. I mean, it starts on, excuse me, it should be okay. We'll check it out. So now, yeah, don't care about that. Now we're looking for the hot end. Make sure it fits in properly. Looks like it fits in properly. Push the hot end in. Alright, so now we have the E3V6 in. Careful of the pins on the board. So now nice. There's that. That. So this one, just be cautious when you're putting it in. You're going to want everything to be flush and flat. Just make sure that that it's also down, because the screws come in from the side, and you want to make sure that everything goes in. I was having trouble getting one of them to start, but not a problem. Make sure the nuts are pushed all the way in, which that one now is. I like the way that works. Not sure I like that part though. Okay. Now we get some cooling fans out. And 3x18, I assume, is this. I assume correctly. Three, 4, 5, 6. All right, so we have 6 of those. A left hot end fan, front print fan. Sticker must always be facing towards the hot end, of course. Of course, of course. Place the extruder on its side and then this is going to go like that. So now we basically are putting the nut to a fan in, and we ran extruder motor wire underneath it here, and now these are going in, and then the wire looks like it came out the side. Let me make sure. Yes. And again, they're saying basically snug them all up, and then go with diagonals. because you want to make sure we don't warp the fan. And of course, like everybody else noticed, they're brown Noctuas, not black ones like Mr. Prusa said. I don't know, maybe they'll eventually get them made special, but I don't really care about the color. I keep dropping my wrench. Yeah, these are, geez, sorry. These are actually threading into plastic, so that's what's making it a little bit more difficult. Alright, those are good. So now we're going to be going like this, and this is the one that's the worrisome one. I'm having problems with this one screw, and hopefully nothing breaks. I'm going to try and gently pull it in. So far so good. Now I'm pulling back out, so I should be able to hopefully that should be good. Okay. Uh, 10mm. And an S-nut and the Pinda probe. Okay, where are we at? Handle it with care. I will certainly do that. So, starting with the place it under the cable clip. Okay, so getting kind of, so now we have that, and we are going to put the wire under the cable clip. Now we want to have this pressed so there's that, and I just lost a nut. There it is. Create a loop and place the wire under the cable clip, which is with that one. It's probably too big of a loop. That's good enough. See how that works. And then put the nut in the slot. And tighten it down. Just making sure that the pin is not below the nozzle, and we will adjust it later. All right. Now, okay. So now I need to get this back. It's saying to lay it in a special way, so I need to zoom in here and see what I'm doing. So it's saying lay it like I am going to snip these wires now because we are at that point. We're rapidly getting there. So we take the cable from the front fan and the penda, and you're going to go to the left side of the bearing, and you're going to take the cable from the extruder motor and the hot end fan, which means I need to undo that and go over the left side. Okay. All right, we're getting close. I am thinking I'm going to need to lower this though. Looking like a printer. All right, so now we need to come up with some M40s, one M40, one M30. So this is an M30, and it is, and an M18, which I assume is this one, and it is. Mount the extruder on the carriage. Using the screws above, tighten all the screws equally. Okay, so if I can do this without hurting myself. promising. This is promising. Okay, that's exciting. Secured back. This. A lot of cable ties. M3 nut. M10. And a 40. So basically we're taking an M10, M3, basically an M310 screw, and I guess it's temporary and we're supposed to put that through. Bit confused as to why. So then they have you thread the nut on it. So they're basically using the M10 as a means of pulling in the nut. Which is interesting. and then you remove it. And then it falls back out because I didn't pull it in far enough. So you're basically using this as a means of pulling this nut in. Definitely one of the most complicated extruder systems that I've had the pleasure of dealing with. So this piece here, there's one side has a slot for the screw head to go into. So it does matter which way you go. So this is going to go like this. And we are aligning the cable strain relief, if you will, is what this seems like it's going to be. So now we have strain relief. Sticker. Now we have another box done. So now we have the extension cable for the filament sensor. Two types of connectors on the cable. The green one's for the sensor, using it now. The other one's for the INZ board. So we want this one. If you look at it, there's two of them. One of them has the clip and one of them does not. We want the one with the clip, the smaller of the two. So the safety pin, as they call it, will be on the left. And we slide her in. And there's kind of an open gap there. I don't know that you could really put it on the other way. Rotate the cable clockwise to create a small loop that we see in the second picture. Okay. Start with this. So now we're adding hot end fan. And the one from the Penda probe. It's actually kind of crazy how much shit, excuse me, how much stuff is getting shoved through here. freaking grab it. So I'm basically, you probably weren't able to see a ton of stuff. You had to feed all the wires through, and there's two little channels on the side. It's actually pretty easy. You just got to take your time and work through it and focus on what you're doing, which is kind of why I got sidetracked. And then once you're tightening all this on, they're saying to trying to get it to actually start or actually catch now on this nut that's pressed in here. Yeah, this is by far the most difficult part right here. There we go. Don't force anything, take your time. But that was definitely, this part is the hardest part. Alright, so you basically have 5 screws holding it, and you start with the center one, and then you start working your way around. And I've got 3 of them started, and they're not tight by any means. Top one's popped in. The bottom here seems to be just slightly askew. Just trying to make sure everything's good and nothing's caught. Trying to just making sure everything looks like it's doing what it's supposed to, because this is the final piece that clamps the lower bearing to keep it from flopping around. not sure I'm liking what I'm seeing. So I'm going to loosen everything up. So the top part seemed to have snapped right in after some finagling. So that part seems to be good. It just doesn't appear to want to, whatever it is that's stopping it. Just got to figure out, these all feel loose. So all I did really at this point was I loosened the top. To allow things to kind of flex a little bit. And now I'm pulling the bottom in, which it seems to be going very nicely. And it's more rigid now. So now I'm going to go back to the top and make sure that gets pulled in nicely. Again, and it is. Going back to the middle again. All right, I think that's good. Just looking for even seams on all the round on that back piece here. Make sure everything's kind of equally snug. That should be good. Right, so now preparing nylon filament. There's 2 nylon filaments. $50 and a $30. We want the 30. No, we want the longer one. Two, 50 and 30, both have approximately 3 millimeters. One of them we want a 45. So at this point, we're trying to clean out space to be able to actually see or get to this centerpiece, which I'm going to use a basically okay. So there's basically a spot come on. Turn off. There's basically a this is pissing me off now. Can't see is the problem. So basically we're needing to shove this through we're trying to push this filament into a press fit hole surrounded by a shit ton of wires. Avoiding any and all chance of slippage. Because if it does slip, you run risk of damaging things. Like that. Yeah, this isn't my favorite part. Yeah, I'm not a fan of these legs, these feet. Again. The point is that this is supposed to go in here and help provide drain relief, but it's not going in at all, not even trying to start. Not even trying to start a little bit. All right, I'm gonna pause it, and that way I can say some bad words and whatnot. All right, everybody's ears could probably be done burning. I think we have it in there. I've got the cable management started. Okay. So now we're starting to cable tie a little bit. Lots and lots of cable ties. Okay, so it says yes, I think they are. And now they're saying be very, very careful of the final positions of these, or we'll have issues during prints. So Okay, so what they're saying is the way you tighten these is extremely important because they cause issues for your prints otherwise. So we're basically dealing with strain relief at this point. And then they said trim it. And then these can go on the top but slightly to the left. They have a good picture of it. That you should be able to follow. It's all about cable management at this point. Okay. Now we must be dealing with the hot end wires. Again, this is back to the spend a little bit of time now and make it all pretty and nice and pays off in the long run. All right. So now we're just picking up the hot end wires and continuing to wrap. And at that point, we're just trying to make everything as smooth and trouble-free as possible. Just finishing up the dressing. All right. Styling. Hey, okay, so now we need the filament cover, the plug, I assume, and the little guy, and a couple of these guys. Now we are mounting the filament cover. So we're locating the largest circular opening for the PTFE tube on the top. Push it in. Majority of the tube's length will stick out. That would be this one. So now we are going to mount the filament sensor cover over the top of that. We'll see how this works out for us. All right, so far so good. Now this one is a bit weird because you're now just press fitting this thing in like so. Okay. Nozzle fan. So now I am going to rotate this a bit, like so. I need to get a nozzle fan out. And what else? One M10 screw. And it's apparently hot. In case nobody was aware. That the hot end is indeed hot. As crazy as that may sound. Very nifty. Very, very nifty. All right. It's done. Well, the extruder's done. And apparently it was the hardest part, and I would tend to agree. That was definitely the hardest part. It's kind of fun. More than kind of. It was really fun. And we're looking, everything looks the same. All right, I am going to stop there and we will do 6 in its own video. Thank you much and see you on the next one.